मनोबुद्ध्यहङ्कारचित्तानि नाहं न च स्योत्र जिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिर्न तेजो न वायुः चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्.
Sankara, who belonged to the classical traditions in the past, and Vivekananda, is there any relevance now? Versatile, varied contributions these two stalwarts of Indian philosophy have made to the cultural heritage of not only India but also the entire world, which is emerging in a global way. There are some common elements which connect over time and make their message timeless. The eternal core of their philosophy, Advaita, has tremendous implications for the world in which we are living now. We had a rich heritage, great spiritual avatars and others, social reformers, Krishna, Madhva, Ramanuja and Shankara, people like Sri Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta Maharaj. In that century of the colonial rule, we have Brahmo Samaj, represented by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Durganath Tagore, and the Colossus, who took finally Indian culture in a comprehensive way to the West. The person who was called the cyclonic monk, this is Swami Vivekananda. He commented and explained the universal oneness and how this has to be applied to the people in their daily as also other aspects of life.
भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहि नहि रक्षति डुकृन्करणे नहि नहि रक्षति डुकृन्करणे भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते
भूरंभांस्यनलो निलोम्बरमहर्नाथो हिमांशुः पुमानित्याभाति चराचरात्मकमिदं यस्यैव मूर्त्यष्टकं नान्यत्किञ्चन विद्यते विमृशतां यस्मात् परस्माद् विभोः तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये. ఆదిశంకర భగవత్పాదాచార్యుల వారు దక్షిణామూర్తి స్తోత్రంలో రాసిన శ్లోకం ఇది. ఈ శ్లోకంలో మనకి ప్రపంచంలో కనిపించే పంచమహాభూతములు, సూర్యచంద్రులు, యజమానుడు ఇవన్నీ బ్రహ్మ కంటే వేరు కాదని, వాస్తవంగా ఆలోచించి చూస్తే పరబ్రహ్మం ఒక్కటే ఉన్నదని, అటువంటి పరబ్రహ్మ స్వరూపమైన దక్షిణామూర్తికి నమస్కరిస్తున్నాను అని వారి సెలవిచ్చారు.
సవైనైవ రమతే తస్మాత్ ఏకాకీ న రమతే సద్వితీయం ఐచ్ఛతు సహైతావానాస యథా స్త్రీపుమాంసౌ సంపరిష్వక్తౌ స ఇవమేవాత్మానం ద్వేధా అపాతయతు తతః పతిశ్చ పత్నీశ్చ భవతాం తస్మాత్ ఇదం అర్ధభృగలమివ స్వయితిః స్మాః యాజ్ఞవల్క్యః తస్మాత్ అయమాకాశః స్త్రియా పూర్యత ఏవ తాం సమభవతు తతో మనుష్యా అజాయంత.
They belong to a tradition which has described philosophy as darshana, perception, actual seeing of the truth of the universe, which you call God or whatever it is. This is the distinction between possibly the Western philosophical contexts and the philosophy and religion which Shankara and this Swamiji, Shankara introduced, Swamiji continued. Shankara was not only a philosopher, not only just a theoretician of Advaita and a commentator of it, but a person whose imagination, whose creativity went into the making of different forms of texts. He was an ardent follower of Advaita, but at the same time, a person who could compose the most moving tributes, the most moving emotions about the Divine Mother. The four perspectives which I am mentioning as our entry points to these two wonderful philosophers are samvad, dialogue, samarasya, samanvaya. Any attempt at understanding these two wonderful people who have given us a number of ideas should be again put in the form of some kind of contemporary issues which are bothering us: ethics, economics, enjoyment, equilibrium, purusharthas, dharmartha, kama and moksha.
ఉపనిషత్తుల్లో చెప్పినటువంటి సిద్ధాంతం మనస్సుకు వచ్చి వారికి ఈ ప్రపంచమంతా అనిత్యము, అసత్యము, కల్పితము అనేటువంటి విషయం తెలుస్తుంది. అప్పుడు ఈ సాంసారికమైన దుఃఖాలన్నీ వారికి తొలగిపోతాయి అంటారు వివేక చూడామణిలో శంకరాచార్యుల వారు. కాబట్టి ప్రతి మానవుడు కూడా ఈ మాయకి గురి కాకుండా చూడాలి. అలాగే ఒక ముచ్చిపు చిప్పను చూసి వెండి అనుకుంటే అది నాకు కావాలి అనే లోభం, మోహం ఇవన్నీ కలుగుతాయి. అలాగే లోకంలో కూడా ఈ విషయాలన్నీ ఉన్నాయి, వాటి మీద ఆసక్తి పెంచుకుంటే వాటి వల్ల ఒక మోహం, వాటిని కావాలి అనే కోరిక, అవి దాచుకోవాలనేటువంటి లోభం, ఇలాగ కామ క్రోధ లోపాలన్నీ మనకి ఏర్పడుతూ ఉంటాయి. దీనికి అందరికీ విషయ ఆసక్తి ప్రధానం. ఈ విషయములకి నిత్యానిత్య వస్తు వివేకం తెలుసుకుని ఈ విషయములన్నీ అనిత్యములు అని గుర్తించిన నాడు ఈ కోరికలు ఉండవు. కోరికలు ఎప్పుడైతే ఉండవో అప్పుడు మనకు ఎటువంటి దుఃఖాలు ఉండవు.
नारीस्तनभर नाभिदेशं दृष्ट्वा मागा मोहावेशं नारीस्तनभर नाभिदेशं दृष्ट्वा मागा मोहावेशं एतन्मांसवसादिविकारं मनसि विचिन्तय वारं वारं मनसि विचिन्तय वारं वारं भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते.
ఏకమేవాద్వితీయం బ్రహ్మ నేహ నానాస్తి కించన. ఇవి ఉపనిషత్ వాక్యాలు. ఈ ఉపనిషత్తులను బట్టి మనకి తెలిసేది ఏమిటి అంటే నిజానికి ఉన్న వస్తువు ఒక్క పరబ్రహ్మ స్వరూపమే. అది సచ్చిదానందాత్మకమైనది, సుఖస్వరూపమైనది. ఇంకా అంతకంటే మరో వస్తువు అనేది ఏమీ లేదు. కానీ ఆ ఉన్న బ్రహ్మ వస్తువు అజ్ఞానము చేత కప్పబడిపోయి లేని అనేక వస్తువులుగా మనకి గోచరం అవుతుంది. దీనంతా మాయా ప్రభావం. మాయని ఇదమిత్తంగా మనం వర్ణించలేం. కళ కన్నప్పుడు కూడా కల్లో మనం అనేక పదార్థాలని సృష్టి చేస్తాం, చూస్తాం, వాటిని అనుభవిస్తాం, వాటి వల్ల ఆనందాన్ని దుఃఖాన్ని కూడా పొందుతూ ఉంటాం. లేచిన తర్వాత తెలుస్తుంది అవన్నీ అబద్ధమని. అలాగే స్వప్నంలో పదార్థాలు ఎంత అసత్యములో, జాగ్రత్తలో కూడా వ్యవహార దశలో పదార్థాలన్నీ కూడా అంత అసత్యములే అంటుంది మన వేదాంతం.
వసుదేవసుతం దేవం
శ్రీ శంకర భగవత్పాదాః సనాతన వైదిక ధర్మస్య పునరుద్ధారం కృత్వా న కేవలం భారతదేశే అపితు విశ్వస్మిన్ ప్రపంచే ప్రసిద్ధాः సంతి.
కృష్ణం వందే జగద్గురు కృష్ణం వందే జగద్గురు.
కేరళదేశే శివగురు ఆర్యాంబా ఇత్యనయోः దంపత్యోः పుత్రో భూత్వా అవతారం స్వీకృతవాన్.
ശ്രീ ശങ്കരാചാര്യ സ്വാമികളുടെ കുലദേവ ക്ഷേത്രമായിരുന്ന കാലടി ശ്രീകൃഷ്ണസ്വാമി ക്ഷേത്രം ആദ്യകാലത്ത് സ്ഥിതി ചെയ്തിരുന്നത് പൂർണ്ണ നദിയുടെ ഈ തീരങ്ങളിലാണ്. ശ്രീമൂലസ്ഥാനം എന്ന അറിയപ്പെടുന്ന ഈ സ്ഥലത്തു നിന്നും ഏകദേശം 3 കിലോമീറ്റർ മാറിയാണ് അന്ന് പെരിയാർ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പൂർണ്ണ നദി ഒഴുകിയിരുന്നത്. ശ്രീ ശങ്കരാചാര്യ സ്വാമികളുടെ അമ്മ ഒരു ദിവസം നിത്യസ്നാനത്തിനായി 3 കിലോമീറ്റർ ദൂരമുള്ള നദിയിലേക്ക് പോവുകയും ഒരു ദിവസം സുഖമില്ലാതെ വീഴുന്ന അവസരത്തിൽ കുലദേവനായ ശ്രീ കൃഷ്ണസ്വാമിയുടെ മുൻപിൽ വന്ന് താണുകേണ അപേക്ഷിച്ച ശ്രീ ശങ്കരാചാര്യ സ്വാമിയോട് നിന്റെ കാൽ വരയുന്നിടത്ത് നദി ഗതിയാകട്ടെ എന്ന് ശ്രീ കൃഷ്ണസ്വാമി അനുഗ്രഹിക്കുകയും ബാലനായിരുന്ന ശങ്കരൻ തൻ്റെ കുലദേവനായിരുന്ന തൃക്കാലടിയപ്പൻ്റെ മുൻപിൽ തന്നെ കാൽ കൊണ്ട് വരയുകയും നദി ഇന്ന് കാണുന്ന തരത്തിലേക്ക് ഈ കാണുന്ന ദിശയിലേക്ക് മാറി ഒഴുകുകയുമാണ് ഉണ്ടായത്.
ശിവശക്ത്യായുക്തോ യദി ഭവതി ശക്തഃ പ്രഭവിതും ന ചേദേവം ദേവോ ന ഖലു കുശലഃ സ്പന്ദിതുമപി.
బాల్యప్రభృతి శ్రీశంకరः అత్యంతం మేధావి విరక్తశ్చ ఆసీత్. తస్య జన్మైవ వైదికధర్మస్య ఉద్ధారార్థం. యద్యపి సः మాతుः ఏక ఏవ పుత్రः తథాపి సः సన్యాసం స్వీకర్తుम् ఇచ్చతి స్మ. తతః ప్రభృతి శ్రీశంకరः మాతుः అనుజ్ఞాం స్వీకృత్య స్వగురోः అన్వేషణార్థం ఏవమేవ దిశి దిశి గచ్చతి. యదా నర్మదాతీరం సः ఆగతः తత్ర ఆసన్ గురవः శ్రీ గోవిందభగవత్పాదాः. అయం కః ఇతి జ్ఞాత్వా తస్య యోగ్యతాంచ అవగత్య తస్మై సన్యాసదీక్షాం ప్రాయచ్చన్. తతః పరం శ్రీ శంకరాచార్యాः జ్ఞానేన ధ్యానేన చ పరిష్కృతస్వాంతాः స్వకార్యం ధర్మోద్ధారం సాధయితుం కాశీనగరం అగచ్చన్.
काशीक्षेत्रं प्रदेशः गौर्यामार्गे दुशङ्करः अन्दिवेशधरं दृष्ट्वा गच्छ गच्छ इदीशः ब्रवीत्. शङ्करशोभचाण्डाला तं पुनः प्राह शङ्करः अन्नमयात् अन्नमयम् अथवा चैतन्यमेव चैतन्यात् द्विजवर दूरीकर्तुं वाञ्छसि किं ब्रूहि गच्छ गच्छेधि.
I was very much fascinated by a composition of Shankaracharya, Manisha Panchakam, separatism between groups and groups, high caste, low caste. This young man of hardly 16 was commanded by the Guru to go to Benares, Kashi, and there establish the purity and the greatness of the Vedanta philosophy, and then travel around India, preach this profound message, Advaita, the great contribution of the Upanishads, Ekameva, Advitiyam, Brahma. Now this story is narrated by Shankara Digvijaya by Madhava Vidyaranya.
शिवः शक्त्या युक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुं न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुम्.
The mythology is introduced here that Shiva and Parvati met Shankara on the roadside in the form of an untouchable. Told Sankaracharya, his own Vedanta, that a man like Sankaracharya, an Advaitin, who knew that everything is Brahman, even he was affected for a minute by this curse of untouchability.
ಅದ್ವೈತ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತವೆಂಬುದು ಶಂಕರರು ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿದಿದ್ದು ಅಂತ ಯಾರೂ ಭಾವಿಸಬಾರದು. ಇದು ಉಪನಿಷತ್ತುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅನಾದಿ ಕಾಲದಿಂದಲೂ ಪ್ರತಿಪಾದಿತವಾದದ್ದೇಯ. ಬ್ರಹ್ಮಸೂತ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ವೇದವ್ಯಾಸರು ಇದನ್ನೇ ಹೇಳಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಆದರೆ ಭಗವತ್ಪಾದರ ಅವತಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಹಿಂದೆ ಈ ಅದ್ವೈತ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತವನ್ನು ಜನರಿಗೆ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಕ್ಕವರು ಯಾರೂ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಶ್ರುತಿಗಳಿಗೂ ಏಕವಾಕ್ಯತೆಯಿಂದ ಅರ್ಥ ಹೇಳುವುದಾದರೆ ಅದ್ವೈತವೆಂಬುದು ಒಂದೇ ಉಪನಿಷತ್ ಪ್ರತಿಪಾದ್ಯ ಎಂಬುದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಹೇಳಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಹೊರತು ಬೇರೆ ಇನ್ಯಾವುದನ್ನೂ ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕಾಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಘಂಟಾಘೋಷವಾಗಿ ಹೇಳಿದರು. ಸರ್ವವ್ಯವಹಾರಾಣಮೇವ ಪ್ರಾಗ್ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮಾತ್ಮ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನಾತ್ ಸತ್ಯತ್ವೋಪಪತ್ತೇ. ನೀವು ಅದ್ವೈತ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಕರ್ಮಶಾಸ್ತ್ರಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ವೈಯರ್ಥ್ಯ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ಉಪಾಸನಾ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರವೆಲ್ಲ ವ್ಯರ್ಥವಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಕೂಗಾಡಬೇಕಾದ ಅಗತ್ಯವಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲವುದಕ್ಕೂ ಪ್ರಾಮಾಣ್ಯ ವಿದ್ಯೆ ಇದೆ. ಅದ್ವೈತ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತವೆಂಬುದನ್ನು ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಗ್ರಹಿಸಬೇಕು.
మన మనస్సు సహజంగా పంకిలమై ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి ఆ మనస్సుకి దాన్ని తొలగించుకునే శక్తి ఉండదు. చేత శంకరాచార్యుల వారు అన్నారు, వేదంలో చెప్పినటువంటి మార్గాన్ని అనుసరించి స్వధర్మాచరణం చేస్తూ ఉంటే తమకి చెప్పబడినటువంటి పనులన్నిటినీ తాము సక్రమంగా నిర్వహించి దాని ఫలితాన్ని ఆశించకుండా పరమేశ్వరుడికి సమర్పిస్తే అలాంటి నిష్కామ కర్మాచరణం చేత మనశ్శుద్ధి కలుగుతుంది.
அவித்யாங்கிறதை யோக சூத்திரத்திலையும் விவரிச்சிருக்கார். அனித்ய அசுச்சி துக்க அனாத்மசு நித்திய சுச்சி சுக ஆத்ம பிராந்திரவித்யா அப்படின்னு சொல்லி, அனித்தியத்தை நித்தியம் என்றும் அசுச்சியை சுச்சி என்றும் துக்கத்தை சுகம் என்றும் அனாத்மாவை ஆத்மா என்றும் எதை தெரிந்து கொள்கிறானோ அதுதான் அவித்யா அப்படின்னு. அப்படி தேகாதௌ அனாத்மனி அகமஸ்மீத் ஆத்மபுத்திரவித்யா, இந்த அனாத்மாவான தேகாதிகளை நான் என்று தெரிந்து கொள்கிறான். அங்கிருந்து இந்த அனர்த்தவராத்தம், அதான் அனர்த்தம் ஆரம்பமாகிறது. எப்படி? இந்த சரீரத்துக்கு யார் ரொம்ப உபச்சாரம் பண்ணுறாளோ அப்போ ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமாக இருக்குது. இந்த சரீரத்துக்கு யார் துரோகம் பண்ணுறாளோ அப்போ ரொம்ப கோபம் வருது. இந்த சரீரம் போயிடும் அங்கே நினைக்கிற போது ரொம்ப துக்கம் வருது. தத் பூஜனாதௌ ராகா, தத் பரிபவாதௌ துவேஷா, தத் உச்சேத தரிசனாத் பயம் மோகஸ்ச. இதெல்லாம் இந்த அனாத்மாவான தேகத்தை நான் என்று தெரிந்து கொண்டதனால வரக்கூடிய அனர்த்த பரம்பரை.
భక్తి దగ్గర కూడా సగుణోపాసన నిర్గుణోపాసన అని రెండు రకాలు ఉన్నాయి. నిర్గుణ పరమాత్మ అంటే పరమాత్మ ఎటువంటి ఆకారములు ఉండవు, ఎటువంటి గుణములు ఉండవు, ఏ పనులు చేయడు, అటువంటి కేవలం జ్యోతి రూపంగా ఒక తేజస్సులాగా ఉండేటువంటి పరమాత్మ, అది నిర్గుణ పరమాత్మ. మనం ఉపాసించేటువంటి 4 చేతులు కలిగిన, చేతుల్లో ఆభరణాలు కలిగి శంఖచక్ర గదా పద్మ వనమాల విభూషితుడు, లేదా వృషభ వాహనుడైనటువంటి త్రిశూలం విరాజమాన శశాంక శేఖరుడు, చంద్రశేఖరుడైన శివుడు, ఇలాగ మనం కల్పిస్తున్న రూపాలన్నీ నిజంగా ఉన్నవి కాదు, కల్పితం. అయితే నిర్గుణ పరమాత్మకి ఈ సగుణ రూపకల్పన ఎందుకు అని అంటే, భక్తుల మనస్సుల్లో ఒక స్థిరమైన అభిప్రాయం కలగడం కోసం, వీరు ఏకాగ్రతతో ధ్యానం చేయడం కోసం, ఉపాసకులను అనుగ్రహించడానికే నిర్గుణ పరబ్రహ్మము కూడా మాయామయమైన రూపాన్ని స్వీకరించినట్టుగా ఆచార్య స్వాముల వారు భాష్యంలో రాశారు.
Established by Sri Sankaracharya as the first of the 4 Amnaya Peethams, the Dakshinamnaya Sri Sharada Peetham at Srinegri, Karnataka has been preserving a scholarly tradition of Advaita since the 9th century. The Srinegri Jagat Gurus are well known for a life of tapas, austerity and their profound scholarship. Over the centuries, the Srinegri Jagat Gurus have taken a number of steps to sustain and propagate the Upanishadic philosophy of Advaita. For instance, the Mahaganapati Vakyartha Vidvat Sabha, instituted in the 19th century, is today the most famous and important of all scholarly gatherings in the country.
उपनिषदां सारः कः वेदानां तत्त्वं किम् इति ज्ञापयितुं भारतस्य दिशि दिशि श्री शङ्कराचार्याः अटनम् अकुर्वन्. चतुर्णां मठानां स्थापनमपि तैः कृतं. येषु भागेषु श्री शङ्कराचार्याः गतवन्तः तेषु भागेषु अद्यापि वैदिकधर्मः सुरक्षितः तिष्ठति.
When you ask what is the core of Shankaracharya's philosophy of Advaita, the answer is straight, everybody knows it. Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya Jiva Brahmaiva Napara. Shankaracharya says that the one alone, Brahman alone is the reality. The many which we perceive is mithya, an illusion, an appearance alone. When you ask Ramanujacharya what is the core of his philosophy, he will say the one is the whole, God is the whole, and we all jivas and this jada jagat, all these are all parts of God. When you ask the great Dvaitavadi Madhvacharya what is his philosophy, he will say the one is also real, the many are also real, and they are different.
జ్ఞానులైన వాళ్ళు కూడా ఈ సగుణ బ్రహ్మ పూజ ఇవన్నీ చేస్తూ ఉంటారు. యతీశ్వరులు కూడా పూజలు చేస్తూ ఉంటారు. ఇవి లోకానికి చాటి చెప్పడం కోసం. యద్యద్ ఆచరతి శ్రేష్ఠ తత్తదేవ ఇతరో జనః అని, పెద్దవారు ఏది ఆచరించి చేస్తారో దాన్ని అనుసరించి తక్కువ జనం కూడా దాన్ని అనుసరించిపోతూ ఉంటారు. కనుక లోకానికి అందరికీ ఆ మార్గం చూపించడం కోసం జీవన్ముక్తులైనటువంటి పెద్దలు కూడా సగుణోపాసన చేస్తుంటారు. ముఖ్యంగా మొదట సగుణోపాసన, తర్వాత నిర్గుణోపాసన, తర్వాత అహం బ్రహ్మాస్మి అనేటువంటి భావన. అలాంటిది ఉత్తమోత్తమ స్థాయి పూజ అహం బ్రహ్మాస్మి అనేటువంటి ధ్యానం.
The Shankara Advaita Research Center, started by the present Shankaracharya Jagadguru Sri Sri Bharati Tirtha Mahaswamiji, was established to bring out as books works that are available on Advaita in manuscript form and preserved in the archives of the Peetham. The Shastra Poshaka Sabha, established by the Peetham in the early 90s, transforms young students into exemplary scholars to help keep the torch of Advaita burning for the present, for the future generations.
এসো ও হৃদয় রমা ওরানো উতলে গো.
Advaita, which is universal, impersonal, non-dogmatic, non-theological, non-metaphysical, not even philosophical, but suited to a modern man who is skeptical, atheistic, scientifically tempered, doesn't want to belong to any religion or any church or any dogma, but at the same time deeply craving for living a great life of spiritual and moral culture. Where does that man go? This is the only solution to the modern man, the Advaita Vedanta, which is impersonal and universal.
Swamiji felt, without feeling any self-consciousness, that English is a foreign tongue. He made it the tongue for the interpretation of the universal truths of Hinduism, which means it's a kind of quantum leap in making the philosophical, religious, ethical, literary and other aspects of Hinduism globally available.
Even though there is a distance of 1000 years between Sankara and Vivekananda, it is possible to institute a comparison between both of them. Both came in the pure Indian tradition of the Vedas and Upanishads. The very idea of the both, Vivekananda as well as Sankara, was to bring back the pristine form of Upanishadic tradition into the ordinary human level and to make man more human.
Swamiji made Advaita Vedanta very practicable by saying that each soul is potentially divine. We have to explore the divinity that is within all of us. Swamiji famously said in one of his letters written to a disciple, he said, to put the Hindu ideas into English and then make out of dry philosophy and intricate mythology and queer startling psychology a religion which shall be easy, simple, popular and at the same time meet the requirements of the highest minds is a task only those can understand who have attempted it. And Swamiji has attempted it very well. He further said, the dry, abstract Advaita must become living, poetic, in everyday life. Out of hopelessly intricate mythology must come concrete moral forms. And out of bewildering yogism must come the most scientific and practical psychology. And all this must be put in a form so that a child may grasp it. This is my life's work.
There are two lines in the Advaita tradition itself, the philosophical and the esoteric. According to the philosophical tradition, the ultimate reality known as Brahman alone is real and everything else is Maya and illusion. According to the esoteric tradition, Maya is not mere illusion, it is the Shakti or power of Brahman and is regarded as the divine mother of the universe. By worshipping this divine mother, by her grace, one can get knowledge of Brahman. This is the view followed in the Srinegri Mutt. It is also the view followed in the Ramakrishna Mutt. Only here we identify Sri Ramakrishna with the Divine Mother.
Swami Vivekananda is saying that the many and the one are the same reality. Brahman alone is real, and that appears as this manifold world. When we look at this world, our question is, where is Brahman? And here Sri Ramakrishna helps us in his inimitable way. Sri Ramakrishna says, Chinite balite mishe ache, পিঁপড়ে আলাদা করতে পারে, দুধে জলে মিশে আছে, হাঁস রাজহাঁস আলাদা করতে পারে. And very amusingly he says, গোলমালে মাল আছে, গোলটি বাদ দিয়ে মালটি লাও. He says, sand and sugar are mixed, the ant can separate them. Milk and water are mixed, the swan can separate them. And the other one, very difficult to translate into English, golmale maal ache, but you can understand. Swami Vivekananda was an expert at this, separating the two. The very word Vivekananda comes from Viveka, discrimination. Viveka comes from the Sanskrit root vivich. Vivich means vivich prithak karane, to separate, to differentiate, to discriminate.
As young Narendra is very rational in his approach. So the first meeting with Sri Ramakrishna, rather first encounter with Sri Ramakrishna. So the first meeting when he meets Sri Ramakrishna, straight away he puts him the question, Sir, have you seen God? So immediately he gets the reply, yes, I have seen God. Not only that, as I am seeing you, much more intense form, I have seen God. Not only that, I talk to him. Not only that, I can show him. So there is one devotee called Hazra and Naren. So they were just discussing the Advaita philosophy. So they were just making fun of it. This table is God, this tumbler is God, so everything is God. It is a more ridiculous thing. So Narendra and Hazra were talking like that. So Sri Ramakrishna just comes that side. Naren, what are you talking? Just touched him. That divine magic touch produced so an effect that Narendra explains. So when Sri Ramakrishna touched me, that magic divine touch produced a change in me. I really felt that the tumbler is God, table is God, everything is God. So I am seeing the buildings, people, vehicles. Vehicles are moving, buildings are there, people are there. So I am also seeing there is only one Chaitanya everywhere, same consciousness pervading everywhere.
Cup is God and the table is God, this chair is God. That Naren said later on in one of his famous lectures, which Romerola quotes in his biography on Swami Vivekananda, Vivekananda and the Universal Gospel. He says, Swami Vivekananda ended his speech in the West, perhaps in San Francisco. He said, never forget the glory of human nature. Buddhas and Christ are but the waves of the infinite ocean which I am. He struck his chest. That's simply a paraphrase from our Ashtavakra Gita, which says, Mai anantamaham bodho ascharyam jiva vichayah udyanti ghlanti khelanti pravishanti swabhavataha. Vivekananda repeatedly told the modern man, identify yourself with the real nature. Vivekananda told them, ye are not sinners, ye are heirs of immortal bliss. Amritasya putra. What a grand, beautiful name. Allow me to call you my brethren by that sweet, wonderful name. Ye are the children of the immortal bliss.
According to one view, the forms of God are only pratikas or symbols. They are imaginary and are meant as a help in concentration of mind, drishti saukaryam. But according to Sri Ramakrishna, the forms of God are real. He gives the example of water and ice. In the ocean, there are certain areas where the ocean changes into icebergs. The same way, Sri Ramakrishna says, Brahman is formless, but for the sake of his devotees, he assumes various forms known as Devas and Devis. Two kinds, or it belongs to two traditions, the Pauranic and the Tantric. In the Pauranic worship, generally followed in South India and North Indian temples, the deity is treated like an honored guest.
मूढजहीः धनागमतृष्णां कुरु सद्बुद्धिं
The Tantric worship followed in the Ramakrishna order may be called mystic worship. It is based on what is known as Ahangraha Upasana. First, in Ahangraha Upasana, the worshipper himself looks upon himself as the spirit, and the deity is also looked upon as the supreme spirit, and then he creates a new spiritual body. It is into this spiritual body, which is the Atman, that the deity as the Paramatman is invoked. Then follows Manasa Puja, mental worship. This is actually the communion of the Jivatman with Paramatman. After this, the deity is invoked on an external image, a murti, or in our temple worship, into a flower, which is then placed on a Shivalinga and offered external worship. This external worship performed in Ramakrishna order is the exteriorization of the internal mystic communion of the Jivatman with the Paramatman.
The Advaita Vedanta says there are two kinds of sadhakas or spiritual aspirants. One kind which is extraordinarily given to the pursuit of truth, so passionate about it that he gets spontaneously detached from the attractions of the outside world. But there are certain people who are struggling to get detached, but they are not so highly elevated. So they are called upasakas. Hundreds of thousands of names and forms which the world is full are completely attracting you. In order to be able to feel that you are that only reality, you should come away from these names and forms which are thousands of them. So you concentrate on one form and concentrate on one name, so that all your concentration will be upon this one entity.
In fact, creation came into existence because there was a desire to create. Therefore, dharma and moksha, which are ethical and emancipatory.
Swami Vivekananda's great charm and power and appeal, according to me, is his universality. In fact, one of the disciples of Swami Vivekananda, who chose to call herself not a disciple but a friend of his, Miss Josephine MacLeod, an American devotee, she says, one of the greatest characteristics of Swami Vivekananda is his unlimitedness. You can't find the sides or the bottom or the top. He is so vast and infinite and universal, and therefore he is all things to all men. For Swami Vivekananda, man and God are not different. See, the modern age is a man-centric age. The previous age was God-centered age. So unless you can package religion in man-centricity, the modern man is not going to buy it. Now, the danger in this approach will be the entire religious approach will become secularized, and therefore you don't talk about God or spiritual values, you simply are interested only in doing good to humanity. The danger in the other approach, you become otherworldly and you only talk about God and spirituality, meditation, cutting away from society. Vivekananda bridged these two, so beautifully blended these two by saying man and God are identical. Jiva is Shiva. That is exactly the basis of Advaita Vedanta. Atman and Brahman are identical. Atma Brahma Aikya, Swami Vivekananda packaged in a new way, by saying Jiva is a Shiva.
Swamiji had seen India at a very close quarters, and he had seen the misery and the hopeless condition in which the people in India lived. He wanted to do something for them, and with that he went to Kanyakumari, he meditated there, and that was a very historic moment, those 3 days of meditation. It is there that he decided to go to the West, and it was indeed a very historic decision because he was the first Hindu monk to have gone to the West, and he is credited with having taken the message of Advaita Vedanta. Swamiji carried it, and he spoke in the Parliament of Religions in 1893, and those few words, sisters and brothers of America, came from his Advaitic realization, that he felt one with them. It was not just a way of addressing them or speaking to people. Of course, it was a way of speaking, but it came from the depth of his heart. He not only spoke about Advaita Vedanta, he also dwelt upon all aspects of spirituality, of Indian custom, of the ancient tradition that India has, when he went to various parts of the West. He wrote a number of letters to Alasinga Perumal, who was just a school teacher, but very inspired and motivated person. And it is Alasinga Perumal and Dr. Nanjunda Rao and a few other very close disciples who started, which is possibly the first English magazine on Advaita Vedanta in India. It was called as Brahmavadin. In 1914, it ceased publication, and then we have, starting off the Vedanta Kesari, another magazine which is called Prabuddha Bharata. Prabuddha Bharata was later shifted from Madras to Almora in today's Uttarakhand, and later to Mayabati. Both these magazines are still running and they are flourishing.
Swamiji started an Advaita Ashrama, a place in the heart of Himalayas at a hill called Mayabati. He did this with the help of many of his foreign disciples, principally Captain and Mrs. Sevier, who dedicated their lives in this hill to see the fruition of this dream of Swami Vivekananda. So once when Swami Vivekananda visited Mayabati, he saw that his own master, Sri Ramakrishna, was being worshipped there. And then he said that this old man has come here too. He was little perturbed that his idea that at least one ashrama of the Ramakrishna order should have Advaita Vedanta in practice and no ritual worship was being disturbed. Later on, this monk wrote a letter to Holy Mother Sri Sharada Devi. Holy Mother did not say that Sri Ramakrishna was an Advaitin himself. She placed Sri Ramakrishna and his existence on the level of the principle of Brahman. She called him Advaita itself. Thus, the concept of Advaita Vedanta and its practice in Ramakrishna mission, Ramakrishna order, was sealed forever.
Swamiji created both mutt and mission. The two wings, like the two wings of a bird, they are service, inner growth. The capacity to remain tranquil in the temple but face the turmoil in the city without complaining, because the natural idea which we get in Swamiji's philosophy is sorrow exists side by side pleasure. Nobody can do anything about that. This kind of philosophy is necessary for ethics. So what Swamiji said was, by institutionalizing, we are giving also importance to bhakti, yoga, karma and jnana. In fact, Swamiji's books, Bhakti, Jnana, Karma, Yogas, are all facets of personality development.
His first visit was in 1892 when he came here as a Parivrajaka, as a wandering monk. It is at that time that he met many of his future disciples. Second time Swamiji came here in 1897 after his return from the West. He was accorded a very royal and a very rousing welcome at the Egmore station. Later Swamiji was accommodated in what today is called as Vivekananda Illam In those days it used to be called as Ice House, or just a place where Biligiri Iyengar lived, the owner of the house. Swamiji spent 9 days there, and during those 9 days he also gave some speeches which turned out to be very historic in terms of their impact on Indian thinking, Indian mindset. And the result was, when Swamiji went back, he sent Swami Ramakrishnanandaji, who was also known as Shashi Maharaj, who came and started the Ramakrishna movement in South India. That was in 1897, sometimes in April and May. Ramakrishnanji spent close to 10 years in the Ice House. That was the first center of the Ramakrishna mission in the south. Later he shifted to Mylapore Ramakrishna Mutt, where he got built a house, a small monastery. But then he passed away in 1911. But the work has continued after that.
हृदि पुनर्भवाभ्याम् आनन्दस्फुरदनुभवाभ्याम् नतिरियम् हृदि पुनर्भवाभ्याम् आनन्दस्फुरदनुभवाभ्याम् नतिरियम्.
He said that if one understands one's true nature, then one can unfold this true nature without having recourse to any personal god or devotion to any personal god. That one of his brother disciples, Swami Turiyananda, just before his passing away, gave an important message of Vedanta to the world, that the Brahman is real and the world also is real. Here it helps if we understand the example of rope and snake, very commonly used in Advaita Vedanta. In a dark room, there is a rope, and a person enters and because of the darkness mistakes that rope to be snake. But when light is switched on, the ignorance vanishes. Had there been no entity as Brahman, there would have been no ignorance of this universe. This is what precisely Swami Vivekananda wanted to drive home to us.
How to make it a part of life and not just a philosophy to be discussed in a philosophy class in a university, but as something which is part of your life, which nourishes you. This, Swamiji said, is the real man-making, to discover the divinity within. Man-making means that character building or expression of strength. So strength is what we get from Advaita Vedanta, that we are Atman, we are not the body, we are the eternal principle, we are not a passing something which will go away with the passage of time. This is a great contribution of Swamiji.
The dry, abstract Advaita must become living, poetic in everyday life. He called it the practical Vedanta. And he also said the Advaita Vedanta which has been practiced, taught, meditated upon, has to be brought to the marketplace and implemented for the welfare of humanity in everyday life.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate